Hi, this is Daniela Cambone. Welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show. Joined today by someone that might be new to many of our viewers, but we're always looking for the next best great guest. So please welcome to the show, Ted Provenza. He's the founder of the
Well,
Provenza Group. He's a retired CPA, but you may have heard him as Ted Speaks. That's his YouTube channel, and he's growing in popularity. And we thought, let's invite him on. He loves the topics we cover. So, Ted, nice to meet you. Welcome to the show.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am. I mean, goodness, we've only been on the broadcasting now for 81 days, and here we are. I'm being interviewed by the undisputed, untarnished queen of the precious metals universe. And I understand we have a couple of barons we need to welcome to the show here too, don't we? Don't you have two children that are twins? And they're
Yes,
4 years old.
yes.
A couple of barons.
The,
I'm just wondering how in the world you get all these notable pundits from around the world to join you. And here I am after 81 days joining you. I felt like I haven't paid my dues yet. Am I being let into the club a little early?
well, we'll see from this interview, Ted. But yeah, I mean, I've heard good things from about you, and we've obviously been watching some of your content, and we were interested to know your thoughts. So first and foremost, let me ask you: you were retired, right? And you said,
Yes.
I want to start a YouTube channel called Ted Speaks, full name Ted Speaks the Truth. But what motivated you to do this?
It wasn't my idea. It wasn't my idea. I had 17 people that I've trained over 11 years and taught about Austrian monetary economics. And one of the guys said, Ted, you're so good at connecting the dots, and I've never heard it explained this way. You really ought to go out and try to share what you know with other people. And I was standing at a gas station. I was filling up an RV that we have with 200 gallons of diesel, and a guy came up in a pickup truck. He started filling up his truck. Turns out he works for the FDIC. And in that short exchange, less than 30 seconds is all we had to even see each other. A conversation rose, and we became good friends. Now I'm getting information directly from one of the top levels inside the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. This guy, this friend of mine, has been on the same level and same floor with Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen, leaving the floor. So we have good information. We also have somebody that's inside the Treasury that's feeding us information too. So we do know what's going on. And I thought that I would come out 2 months early because I see what's happening in the silver market. And I saw it was going to happen. And so the plan is to try to fatten up everybody's estate because I know what's going on. This isn't an idea. This isn't a thought. What's really going on, Daniela, is if you look upstream from where all the turbulence is, what's happening is an epic biblical battle between Keynesian economics and Austrian monetary economics. Mm-hmm. Keynesian economics is another failed experiment. It's all going down the tubes. And we're going to revert back to sound money being that of God's money, sound money being that of Austrian monetary economics. So after I learned about all this was going on, I was able to get into a class being taught by Dr. Antel Fekete at MIT. And based upon my school classes and interest in economics, I was able to write a little paper and get into that. Now I know people around the world that are economists, or Austrian monetary economists trained. So what I'm doing with you, I'm sharing.
You were able to take a class at MIT?
Yes, I graduated, yes, in Austrian monetary economics. Yep. And that was that put the cherry on top of it for me. Because when I learned what was going to start happening, because a client of mine died, his name was Charlie Booker. And he died in November 2012. And as I'm cleaning out his estate, I come across all this silver, and I'd never seen it before. I didn't know anything about it in 2012. And I took it into the coin shop where he had bought it because I had all the records and everything. And the guy behind the counter, the owner, said, hey, young man, I haven't seen you in here before. It brings you in. And I said, well, apparently one of your clients died, and I got to turn all this silver back in because I got to make distributions to the National Rifle Association, Alzheimer's Association, Heart Association. It was a big estate. So the guy behind the counter says to me, so let me get this straight. You're going to give me this, and I'm going to give you a piece of paper with ink on it. I got to tell you, 27 years as a certified financial planner, top of the game. I was one of the number one guys in ING Financial Partners nationwide. For somebody to make that comment to me, at first I thought it a little insulting, but the guy definitely had some stones about him. So the more research I did, the more I started on have to unwind what it is that I've been taught and trained for 27 years as a CFP.
Wow. Right.
So then I heard that there was going to be a bail-in on the island of Cyprus. Now, keep in mind, Charlie died back in November 2012. I didn't know the bail-in, and you didn't either, was going to happen prior to March of 2013. Got to tell you, Daniela, when that happened, I got scared to death because I'm the fiduciary of this estate. Now I know that bail-ins are a possibility because I keep notes. And now I know that bail-ins actually happen. What would you do as a fiduciary? Hmm. There are bail-ins happening. We're having in Cuba right now. People need to connect the dots. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. So anyway, I subscribe to that thought. But anyway, I don't go too far off your question. But this was not my idea to start the estate planning, to start this. It was a guy by the name of Dave. And the first show we did was on Ron's Basement, blew up with 34,000 views. Then a friend of mine, Nick, who you all talked to, came over and said, Ted, you just can't let this go. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, look what it did. And I said, well, okay, what's usual? And he said, not this. So it was Nick, and we came up with the idea for Ted Speaks Truth, TedSpeaks.net. We all had it done in about an hour. No kidding. On Tuesday, what was that, March 2nd, I think. Saturday. Oh, yeah. Saturday, March 2nd. Oh, yeah. Okay. So since Saturday, March 2nd, we're here, and I'm talking to the queen of the universe. Awesome, Danielle. Thank you very much for having me on the program.
Ted, I love your enthusiasm, and I think it's interesting, and I want to learn more about how, I mean, you've come from the traditional financial path and school. And I find it interesting how, the guy in the bullion shop kind of just shocked your world in that moment. I want to learn more about that. Like, I mean, was that the turning point where you were like, I never studied precious metals. I mean, we don't learn about gold and silver in school. Was that a turning point for you that you decided to start taking a deep dive in precious metals?
Yeah, it pretty much was. I mean, the real turning point was Charlie's a very smart guy, and Charlie's a fellow Mason as well. And I actually think that Charlie set me up for this because it wasn't hard to find all the silver. It wasn't hard to find all the receipts. I mean, so what would you do as a fiduciary? You take it back to where the guy bought it, right? And I did. And he makes this comment, and it set me on my own path to find out, what is this guy talking about? Ink on a piece of paper versus real money. And I got wrapped up in this rabbit hole, and I've been unable to get out. I've been up since 1:00 this morning. I go to bed at 8:30, and I'm up by 1. So there's so much happening. I'm listening to podcasts at 1.5 speed, and I'm reading stuff. There's so much happening right now. I just got to process it all, and I'm doing it, and I understand what's going on. I'd be happy to share it with you.
What is it about gold, silver, precious metals that just changed the way you look at the world, really? Like, why do you, because now you believe it's essential to own commodities, correct?
Can we go another step further? It's not a belief. It's a fact. I mean, 4,000 years of history in the Bible. I mean, before Jesus was born, BC, 4,000 BC, up to 1871, we were on a silver standard. I think we'll all be able to figure out how to go back to silver. But silver is finite. Silver's been referenced in the Bible. And every Sunday we hold a sermon by Dr. Pastor Belcher of Church of the Open Door. And every Sunday we talk about a sermon that has to do directly with silver in the Bible, more so silver than gold because of the mining ratios. We could get into that, but the mining ratios right now are about 7.1, whereas the paper ratios are 80-1. I saw this was happening, and I got out of the gold position that I was in at 120-1, and with the VIG, I got out at 107. So I got 107 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. I know what's going on. And now as that ratio compresses in the opposite direction, I plan on getting out. I'm one of the reasons I'm watching this. I have a feeling, it's a gut feeling, but it's being substantiated in a couple other areas that we might see gold and silver go 1-1. And if that happens, you're going to wind up with 80 times more gold than you would if you bought the gold instead of silver.
Why do you think that's going to happen? What do you see or know that you think will lead this to happen?
Well, if I were to show you on the U.S. debt clock, we would see over here that the paper to silver ratio right now is 398.29 to 1. And if we take the current spot price of silver, which we had at $31.39, okay, and it would seem to me quite logical, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're the expert, I'm still learning. If we have 398.29 paper ounces of silver that's been sold by the COMEX or the LBMA or together, then wouldn't it be not much of a stretch to simply take the 3202 times the 398.29, and that would give us $12,753 an ounce. Right now, what's happening is all the banks on the globe are owned by one company. Most people don't know this. It's owned by the Bank for International Settlements. The Bank for International Settlements is the Keynesian economic model, and that's being replaced. And what we're going to see in very short order is a collapse of all the banks that belong to the BIS, because they're going to remove the BIS as the sole issuer of all currency around the planet. 8.1 billion people on the planet. One company providing all that currency to all these people. I think it's criminal myself. But anyway, we're ending it. And these guys are being yanked out. They are. But once these people are yanked out of all these different countries, you will pull up the BIS.org and you go to Central Bank Hub and you go down to central bank monetary websites, you will see definitively they own all the banks in the world. Now, if we're going to replace, or we're going to go back to we're going to go back to a silver standard, a gold standard, don't all these banks have to come out? And don't they all have to come out at one? If you're going to have cancer removed, don't you have to get it all out? Now, as you pull this heart out of this beast, okay, that's been beaten in this animal for what, 150 years or whatever, Mayor Amschel started the Bank for International Settlements, and he is quoted as having said, "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws." We're seeing that exemplified right now. We're seeing all kinds of crazy laws, because if you have control of the country's currency, you can control whatever destiny it is that you want that country to go in. You can pay people on a keyboard to do things completely antithetical to what you think is what you know that's actually positive for humanity.
What,
So I saw what was going on, and I'm carrying the torch, and I'm going to burn them down.
when you
And I appreciate you help for letting me get the word
yeah,
out.
but
When the truth comes out about this, entire industries are going to completely vanish.
I'm just trying to understand the source of why you think the BIS will vanish and be replaced. What is this based on?
Based upon the U.S. Constitution, right here. U.S. Constitution says Article 1, Section 10, right in here. It says no state shall enter any treaty or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver money.
Mhm.
Then what is it we're using now? What I would maintain is I would go back to the doctrine of law that has to do with fruit of the poison tree. At what point in time were we given something to use as money that wasn't money? And then I think all other encumbrances, all other loans, everything out of there that's not constitutional simply needs to be repudiated. We're not going to inflate the debt, and we're not going to default on the debt. We're going to call the debt out for what it is. It isn't constitutional. It isn't constitutional in our country, and from what I've learned from Australia, Canada, and the UK, is not constitutional in their countries either. So this company, the barrel of a gun, has been able to take over the world's issuance of currency. So they've got to be stopped, because it's a Keynesian economic model, and the Keynesian economic model, in so many words, basically says if you have one pie, you can feed the world. You just need to make the slices a little bit thinner. I might
So
need two slices.
yeah, let's break it down, Ted. So the world 10 years from now, let's say, what does it look like to you?
We're going to be on an asset-backed monetary standard globally. An ounce of silver in the United States is going to be worth the same amount as it's going to be worth in Botswana or Kiribati or wherever else. What it's going to basically do is level the playing ground for international trade. See, right now there's a VIG. You could buy raw materials say in the U.S. and have them shipped to China and have them returned back as finished product and make a profit selling it retail. That's only because of the labor arbitrage, I'd say, right now, because of the Exchange Stabilization Fund and Leon Wana that had funded it with $2 trillion that came out of Russia. And then in order to prop up the stock market, all this stuff, I hope you Google it, because it's all true. And then as far as the stock market is concerned, take a look at the Plunge Protection Team, also known as the President's Working Group on Financial Markets. They can mark the markets go up, they can make them go down. And that's where we are. And during the Great Depression, the reason why we had the Great Depression is they simply limited the number of currency units that were in circulation. They basically took the units of currency out. And then what happened? The people couldn't pay their bills. Then they had loans or notes. Interesting. The dollar bill's called a note. They had notes on their farms. So they couldn't service the note. Guess what? The Bank for International Settlements, who's a great alchemist, they took something and made nothing out of it. They took air, attached it to a farm that somebody worked for. They could no longer make the payments on it. Now guess who owns the farm and probably resold it? There's so much going on as far as Rothschild. How did he get control of the global stock market? I can explain that too. It has to do with the Battle of Waterloo and the fact that he told everybody on the stock exchange floor in London that Napoleon had broken through the lines of Waterloo. That was a lie. He did that in order to get the traders on the floor of the London Stock Exchange to divorce themselves of the stocks, which they did. And of course, his message that said he got it from a carrier pigeon. This is true stuff. Was indicating that Napoleon was heading directly into London. So the stock traders, they wanted to all dump their stocks, right? Well, guess who was the only one buying it? Rothschild. Rothschild reached out to his other four brothers and other central banks around the globe and said, hey, guys, I need money. Send it over here. I'm buying stock. And they did. So he bought everything that he possibly could. Then he set the record straight and said, oops, Napoleon didn't break through the lines of Waterloo. He was held back. So what do you think the traders on the London Stock Exchange wanted to do? They wanted to buy their stock back. You think Rothschild let him have it back? Hell no. He wanted to be the sole lender to the crown. And that was the beginning. He got power from one place and it took it over in the U.S. And Rothschild, actually, I don't even know his real name because Rothschild's a two-word name. It means red coat. There's so much we have not been told the truth from. For instance, if you check the deed, you'll see that there's no dirt in your deed. We've had a lot. There's no money in our money as of 1965. In 1966, is it interesting? They took the money out of Australia's money. And in 1968, they took it out of Canada's money. In 1960s, I don't know exactly the date, they took it out of the UK's money. All this is the BIS. So you ask the question, why I'm passionate about this, what lit the fuse? What lit the fuse is the realization that we're using nothing as money.
What is your thesis surrounding the future of the US dollar then? Do you see like a complete demise? Like getting back to a 10-year time frame, I'm just trying to understand how you think your thesis plays out.
Well, let me try to prove my thesis here a little bit, okay? Let's do a little research quickly on what the dollar actually is. The dollar was never really called the dollar. It was called the thaler, T-H-A-L-E-R. And the T-H-A-L-E-R is actually, etymologically speaking, meaning the root word of the meaning means silver. Isn't that interesting? And you also find out, where's that sheet that we had? You'll find out also, I'll send this over to you, you can include it. Most of the world's currencies have an etymological root, meaning where the word come from. Ancient Latin, Roman Latin. Okay, you familiar with that? Anyway, that's where the word came from. So you're going to take a look at thaler, means silver, shekel, drachma, dinar, dinar. All these words means rupee, means silver. What are we dealing with? Paper. Why am I the only one out here? Why am I the only one that sees a major battle between Keynesian economics, represented by the BIS, versus Austrian monetary economics, represented by the Bible, saying we've had enough of this kind of stuff going on. There's too much sin, too many bad things going on. God's coming back in, going to take the bad guys out. Austrian monetary economics is coming back in. We're going to get back to sound money. This is what sound money sounds like. Listen, this is what sound money doesn't sound like. One has a higher pinch. That's where the term sound money came from. People don't know this stuff. You think Bitcoin? You think dollar bills are sound money? No, it's all representation of money. This, folks, is money, okay? This is a representation of money and interesting timing. Are any of these notes good right now? No. What are they good for? Nothing. So you mean to tell me at some point in time somebody exchanged their finite purchasing power for units of currency like this so they can go out and provide groceries for their family or pay rent? What's very interesting, there was a fellow that leaned out to us and he said that his grandfather told him, his grandfather was raised in the early 1900s, that a dime would pay a month's rent. We are so divorced from what money is and what it isn't. We don't know what's up and what's down. And that's why I think that the show's taken off so fabulously well. People are starving for truth and we're giving it to them. And I'm just thrilled that ITM decided to embrace me and help me get the word out,
Okay,
because you guys are doing the same thing I am. You're educating people.
yeah, I just want to understand more of what you think will cause this catalyst or this change that we return to. I mean, would you do you think we're going to go back to a gold standard?
It's going to be gold for international trade and silver for the people. See, we were on a silver standard from 4000 BC up to 1871. And then what happened? They wanted to move us from silver over to gold to consolidate the power into the people that had the wealth. Because real wealthy people hold the gold. They don't care what it costs, they just hold it. Okay. So when we went from a silver standard to a gold standard, what happened was all the power was consolidated with them. And then, of course, Nixon took us off the gold standard in 72, I believe, 71. Okay. So since 71 and now, we've been on no standard. So it's a vacuum that is formed. Okay. And people are clamoring for real money. Right now, they're clamoring for real truth. Believe me, it's as the old system is taken out, what's created is a vacuum. Think of this heart having many tentacles and arteries and veins and all kinds of stuff. As you pull this heart out, it's going to have all kinds of stuff hooked to it. Think of it as one might be a little toe representing Kiribati or Botswana or Tonga or whatever else. As you pull that out, it's going to leave a vacuum, and that vacuum is going to cause the new money to come in like that. It's going to stun the world.
What are you hoping to educate folks on the most? Like, if you could get one message across, what do you want people to know?
Get out of the dollar, get out of paper around the globe, get the real money before it's too late. And then once your estate is fat and everything, it's built up, then do an estate plan, get the estate plan set up correctly. We'll help you with that. I did this for 27 years. And then after that, that's when the fun starts, Daniela. That's when we get into self-actualization. That's when we get into what's on your bucket list, what makes Daniela happy. What does she want to see her twins grow up to be like? Where does she want? What does she want? What makes her happy? What's put a smile on her face? What if it wasn't for the need for work? Okay, where do you want to go with your life? See, right now, people don't have a plan, so there's no chance for self actualization. And I'm going to bring it to a reality, and that's what I'm passionate about, because it's a whole side of life that you and most people out there haven't seen. I've seen it twice. I've retired twice. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes you
Retiring.
get the days mixed up. Oh
But you're
yeah,
still working, so you
sure.
love the working, see?
This isn't work by definition.
Right.
This is sort of a hobby and a passion.
Right.
I mean, I sort of miss connecting with all the people that I had as estate planning clients. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a radio personality in Baltimore for 15 years. If you were in this area and you were probably 20 years older to Daniela, you would know the name Provenza Group, because we had the whole area over here. We did thousands of trusts each and every year. And think of this: throughout all that time, go and do a Google on the Provenza Group. There have been zero problems. Check the Better Business Bureau, no problems. That's why I keep all the records that I do. I have every calendar, every appointment from when I first started estate planning back in 1985 to when I sold it in 2010.
Well, this is a good
I'll
question
show
for
you.
you in your area of
Yeah,
expertise. What do you think is the biggest mistake people make when it comes to estate planning?
there's a bunch of them. Um, just putting people's names on your assets. There are people that have put the name on a house. Let's suppose a married couple, the husband dies, that automatically goes to the wife, right? The wife doesn't want the house to go to the probate, to go to the kid. So the wife puts the kid's name on the deed, right? Well, what happens? Let's suppose the kid goes bankrupt. He goes through a divorce. That's an asset, isn't it? It was given to him. So these assets need to be kept in a trust for his benefit in the event they're in a situation where they're receiving governmental benefits or in the process of divorce or going through bankruptcy. We have all these triggers already built into the documents. See, there's a finite number of things that can go wrong. You may think it's infinite, okay? But if you do this for 20 some years, as I have, they're all finite. You hear the same stories. So what I've done is we've put everything in the estate planning document. Think of like Prego spaghetti sauce. It's in there. So I don't know what's going to happen to you. You don't know what's going to happen to you. It's my job to think about the things that can happen to you. And it's my job to take care of it. So your money stays in your family. 100% of it is managed by the people you want under the terms that you dictate and distributed under the situations. Like, for instance, your sons.
Right.
Let's suppose one wants to go to college and the other one doesn't. Well, maybe you set it up so the kid that doesn't want to go to college, maybe he gets some kind of income off the estate, whereas the other one continues to hold his assets so he avails himself to as much financial aid as possible. See, gifts do not detract from financial aid. So if he sets it up properly, we set it up properly, the money will be there for him in a trust for his benefit, but he doesn't own it, so it can't count against him for governmental benefits, scholarship information, bankruptcy, what's it called, divorce, all that stuff. You
Interesting.
do anything long enough, I mean, like even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. I
Yeah,
found
no,
it.
I think do you think it's something that people just don't think enough about or don't do their due diligence?
Well, there's no incentive to do the due diligence, Daniela,
Yeah,
because by the time that you realize that there was a mistake in your estate plan, you're no longer around. Either you're out of it because you're unavailable through incapacity or whatever, and you don't know what's going on, okay? Or you've died, you still don't know what's going on. So your beneficiaries go back and say, hey, why'd you set this up for my parents? Well, your
right.
parents wanted it set up that way. That could be the answer from the attorney, right? And then the attorney will, I'm sorry, you can't do anything to me because you're not my client. Your dead parents were my clients. These attorneys have everything sewed up, and I know all the angles to get at it. And that's why we've never had a problem in 27 years with thousands of estates, $700 million of assets under management. We went out here on February 1st, March 1st, March 1st. People, this message is resonating with people. I'm telling you, we're almost at $50 million that people have taken out of fiat and put into real metal. Just the ones that are telling me. Prior to coming on the air here, the couple of people call and say, Ted, I just got this, I just got this 401k,
Yeah.
where can we put it? And I think that, with the volume of people that are picking up, Danielle, you're telling me ITM, and I believe you guys, it can handle this stuff. It's just getting to be too much for me. So I think it's a logical progression for us to try to help get the word out. But, we're only a small volunteer team here. We do have people across the country that are volunteering their time. We have Ben that's taking care of the Patriot Silver Show coming up on June 14th at the Baltimore Convention Center. We hooked up with an expo team that's been producing the same coin show for 50 years, and they do it 3 times a year. So
Yeah.
I said, hey, we just started this podcast thing. We're in Baltimore. Well, come on down, bring your people. So I said, hey, let's come up with a hat so everybody knows who everybody
Yeah,
is. So we have this Ted Head hat.
I just find it
So I'm sorry.
interesting that how you knew you were awakened to this idea of how gold, silver is real money for you and how this provides solutions.
Are you questioning where the information might have come from or where the incentive came from? Is that what your question is?
No, I'm saying I think it's interesting because you came from such a traditional route and then you were, introduced to this new world and now you want to just educate people on it.
Daniela, there have been so many God winks along the way, setting this all up. We had tedspeaks.net, Ted Speaks. We had everything set up in less than an hour. I
Wow.
mean, which I mean, and then all this stuff just sort of happening. And what are some of the other things that happened? Oh, donations. Holy smokes. Sorry about that, guys. I know you're watching. We've had people donate money to us. Hey, we really like what you're doing. Here's a check for five. We've had $3,000, $4,000 checks come. And this vibe board that I showed you, that was donated to us as well. And then we just found out that Steve, the new guy that's helping out with the IT, say, hey, Ted, did you know that tedspeaks.com is available? I said, oh, I didn't know that. He said, well, why don't we buy it? It's $2,000 to buy tedspeaks.net.com. I'm sorry. This is not my wheelhouse, folks. I'm very good at what I do. This stuff, I don't stay
You're
focused on
doing
that.
great.
So anyway, the bottom, well, thanks. This is all, I never did a podcast before March 1st. Now I've
Wow.
done radio shows and TV programs and that kind of stuff, but this podcasting stuff is all new to me. But it's a lot of fun.
I guess.
I see you're a Ravens fan up there in New York with the purple in your background. You a Ravens
Oh,
fan, Danielle?
no, we have to be Jets in my house, but not by my
Wishful thinking
doing.
down here from
But
Baltimore.
anywho,
Yeah.
as we wrap, Ted, I guess what do you want folks to know? I mean, what when you're seeking out on this mission to to share the truth with people, what do you think is the greatest lie that people are being told?
That what they have in their bank account is money. Is not money. The real definition of money is physical gold and silver. Currency, when it can be redeemed for the gold and silver, is in fact defined as currency. when you can no longer take the currency notes back to the bank and redeem it for the physical gold and silver, the note then is what's called fiat currency. And then when they run out of time to print the daggone money and actually make paper out of it, they create what's called digital fiat currency. And that's where we are right now. So there's over $12 trillion of created digital currency, backed up by only 1.2 trillion of printed currency. So you wonder why, hey, you go into the bank, you can't get $10,000 out. You know why? It hadn't been printed yet. I mean, how ridiculous is this? Come on. Go to War Miss Murphy. The more I uncover here, the more outrageous it all is, and the more I have to laugh. I mean, think of this. This situation, this business model by the Bank of International Settlements, Daniela, they've been doing the same thing for 1,200 years. And I got 89 examples on the table over there. You know, the deal is when I was growing up, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Where do you come up with fool me 89 times? It's actually been more than that. And on my table, you'll see that I've even put in the US dollar notes over there too. So what makes the US dollar any different than all the other currencies that we have here? Nothing. Nothing, folks. Look, the table isn't big enough for everybody. All right. Only 1/2 of 1% of all people in the United States hold real money. And if you're listening to this, congratulations, because you get an A plus. A 99.5 is an A plus where I come from. Okay. And you get an A plus. Now, if you're not in the game, folks, may not be too late. I actually thought things were going to blow up today. I think they may have till Monday. They should be reaching out to you guys at ITM Trading and find out what you guys can do to help them while there's still time. Get the money out of the bank. It isn't even it there. I'll show you on the U.S. debt clock.
Why did you think it was going to blow up today? Because of what's happening geopolitically, or what?
Well, Richie from Australia says that our banks over there are no longer giving out cash in Australia. There's a lot of things happening today, but the fact is it doesn't look like it's falling apart, which tells me if you guys have until Friday or Saturday of this week, as far as I don't know the date. Let me go over that briefly. All the dates and times are being put out by what's called a supercomputer inside the Pentagon. And there's a number of different inputs that are coming in. Like, what is the sentiment of the citizens? What's the bankruptcies looking like? What are lost car or missed car late car payments? All this stuff that people have going on in their lives. All this stuff is being fed into the supercomputer because it's a trade-off. The longer we wait, the more the bad guys we can get to come out of hiding. As we take the bad guys out that are in hiding that have to do something to defend themselves, then the higher up guys have to come out and they have to defend themselves. The question is, will we ever be able to get these guys on the rope at the point we are now? Because once burned, twice shy, we're probably not going to be able to get them on the same thing. So let's suppose that it takes another 500 lives lost to get another one person. Okay, because of all the turmoil going on. Maybe there's spousal violence. Maybe there's trouble in the house over money, or somebody can't get to work, or this brings up tensions, which brings up violence. Okay, what we need to do is we need to come back. We need to come back off the ledge. We need to get back to sound money. We don't need one private company issuing the currencies all over the globe. And it's not going to be a slow transition. It can't be. Because if you want the cancer out, it's all got to come out. All 207 countries that the BIS owns the banks in are being removed. You haven't seen it yet because it hasn't really been publicly made available, or not public awareness, whatever you want to call it. Okay. But in terms of the signs that things are happening, because I have people that are in my class from Vietnam, Australia, of course, other countries, and we're all collaborating and talking about what's happening in your. That was the purpose of the global roundtable we had the other day. Richie from Australia was talking about what's happened. He told us about the banks not issuing cash anymore, and then we found out from Nicholas up in Canada what was going up there, and then over in the Netherlands from Adrian. So we're getting, and then the information I'm sharing with you, this is coming from guys like the fellow I met that's inside the FDIC and the other person that we have inside the Treasury. Now, these people would lose their jobs if any of the information they fed me got out. So I hope you're comfortable with just giving you the names of the organizations that they're from.
But they're willing to risk their jobs.
No, they're not. They're willing to tell me what's going on, but they do not want to use their name, nor they want to come on the program, use their voice, or anything else. Mm-hmm. So you just have to believe me that what I'm telling you is the truth. So,
all right, Ted Provenza, thank you for coming on the show. And if you want to watch more of Ted, learn more of what he's doing, Ted Speaks is his YouTube channel. We wish you luck with it. I know you're just starting. Um, I hope you have a lot of fun with it and you reach the masses. I wish you all the best, Ted.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming me on your show. Obviously, it's about getting people to wake up and get the information, and you've been a big help not only to me but to my cause and to all the other people. The 17 people that I've trained in Austrian monetary economics are watching this, and they're all anxious to see how it goes. You're a rock star, Daniela, and we all appreciate what you're doing. And folks, she went out on a limb to tell you about what we're doing here, and you probably haven't heard this anywhere else. Thank you, Daniela. You're doing God's work.
Thank you, Ted. I appreciate the support. And I invite all everyone, as always, to sign up at danielacambone.com so you can stay on top of all this great content you can't get anywhere else. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.